All right, guys, so today I'm out here with my dad, AKA Pappa Duck. We're at his house today. We're going to be doing some cooking. He's come up with what I think is a new recipe. I've never seen this one before. We're going to be talking about that while we're cooking it and just do like a little interview of my dad. So, Daddy, we've been trying to do this for a couple weeks. Both of us got sick, so we're here today. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. We know that you've written a couple of cookbooks, I think 3 cookbooks total, but could you tell everybody about your cooking career, how you got started?
Sure. My family was in the restaurant business in South Carolina for years and years. And when I came out of the Marine Corps, I went to work in the restaurant. And my daddy finally got sick, and I took over and ran the kitchen for about 3 years. And I was cooking 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. Then I decided that I'd had enough of the restaurant business, so I was going to learn how to do something else. So I started writing for something daily item. And I would go home and I'd go to my old Royal typewriter. I'd come back to the restaurant, sit at a table in the back of the kitchen, and I'd start writing. And I went to the something daily item, and I started doing a little fishing column on Lake Marion. I would just call it fishing landings every week on like Thursdays, and find out what was biting, what it was, what the fish, and then we'd put it in the paper. It would come out on a Friday. Well, that went okay for about 2 weeks, and Doug Nye, who was the sports editor, he was young, he called me and said they were going to discontinue this. And then about 3 weeks later, he called me again, cleared his throat, and asked me, would you please continue doing this little fishing report, because it's the most read thing we've got on the sports page. So that's how I started writing. Then I started writing more. They gave me a column. And then I started writing magazine stories. I had a public relations account with no Dragonfly Company and something. I actually had a radio show at WSSC, featured Gold Island Landing. And I used to end it by saying, well, the road ends and the fun begins. Well, lo and behold, I never went to school, never had the first year of journalism. So I decided I was going to go to the state newspaper and apply for a job as outdoors editor. Well, at that time, they had a fellow by the name of Joe Whitlock, who did sports and outdoors. And but he left and went to the wildlife department. So I go into the paper, no journalism whatsoever, and lo and behold, I talked them into hiring me. I never told them I didn't go to college, and they never asked me. And so they hired me. I didn't know the first thing about a newspaper, nothing. But I learned in a hurry. And I can tell you the truth, one day when they found out that I didn't, Mr. Helms, who was sports editor, called me and said, you didn't go to college? And I said, no, sir. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 3 months probation. He said, probation. And so he did. And but in 3 months, I learned as much as those boys learned in 4 years of school. I went to work. I remember the first note he wrote me, I did a story called, it was on a Red Hour setup. He wrote, I still have that, and I have everything I've ever written. It was a note that said, this is the best work you've done for us so far. That started me on actually a career of writing. Years later, that story would appear in a magazine. Then it would appear in a book, which that book won me an award. Then I became a freelance writer. I've written for 66 different magazines. 2 of those magazines in England for almost 2,000 articles. I've written 11 books. I've traveled throughout the United States hunting and fishing, all over Canada, Mexico, Central America, South America, and I've had a great life doing this. But it all started with something to do with the item, writing a little fishing report, and and people responded to it. That was the thing. People started writing in something saying, this is neat. We need this in something. We're a little town at that time, and people are hunting fish in this town. That was when the stores closed on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. People went fishing and hunting. I had letters from the Buford neighbor, who was the head of education in something, South Carolina. A whole bunch of people, and just I couldn't believe it. And I've got 6 albums now, notebooks full of letters from people. But I've kept the good, the bad, and the ugly too. I haven't discarded anything people have written me. And I've got all of my hunting and fishing license since 1959.
These are the duck stamps that you've got behind you, right, Frank?
Behind me. Not only have I got those, the duck stamps out of state, on my hunting license, I've got another 131 stamps. And so I've got a lot of duck stamps. I've got all of my international stamps, licenses. I've got ducks and geese that I've killed with bands. I've got those certificates. One time on Kentucky Lake, I was shooting with a fellow by the name of Lynn Floyd. And he was on one end of the blind, left hand, I was on the right hand. These 2 mallards came his way, 2 mallards came my way. He killed his 2, I shot my 2, bang, bang. Both of them had bands. The next afternoon, 2 wood ducks, well, I still call them summer ducks, came his way. He shot his, I shot mine. I shot one time, killed both of them, and lo and behold, both of them were banded. I shot 3 times and killed 4 banded ducks. And it was, and doves down in South America, oh my goodness gracious. It was, I usually would just have to shoot pictures, photos. But on the last day in Bolivia, a fellow by the name of George Jorge told me, he said, you go ahead and shoot. Won't cost you a thing. I shot 1,127 doves in a day. And I never bought the first shell. And in Guatemala, we caught, in 3 days we caught and released 81 sailfish and 1 blue marlin. So I've had some fantastic hunts, but I grew up with some of the best duck hunting right here in South Carolina, not 12 miles from where I lived in a place called Calla Swamp. With its size, it beat any place I've ever been. Arkansas, everything. It was just with thousands of mallards that came into that swamp. And I was about 14 when I first went in there and found them. And nobody else really hunted the ducks in there. And they just had a pair of hip boots. And I'd fall in every time I'd go. I used to get to the point I'd just go ahead and fall down just to go there and get wet. But the ducks would come in there, it was incredible. But one day, it was warm, it was hot, and I went in there. And I had an alligator on my mind. I stepped on a log, and it came up between my legs, and I thought it was an alligator. And I was with a fellow by the name of Bill Cockrell. And I screamed, and I jumped out of the water like a missile and wrapped myself around a tree. But it wasn't. The stump came up between my legs and scared me. But I found those ducks really one afternoon bird hunting at a place, we call him Old Man Moore.
Now, when you say bird hunting, we're talking about
quail.
We're talking about bobwhite quail.
Yeah, buds, and as you pronounce them in the South. When we had buds, just coveys after coveys. And Mr. Moore used to tell me that there were ducks in the swamp, and I wouldn't believe him. But one afternoon I was hunting and I heard them. And the next morning I went in the swamp and I found them. Oh my goodness gracious, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And Santee Cooper was loaded with ducks then. It was It was just sparkleberry. My goodness, it was just thousands of birds in sparkleberry. And I hunted with some wild people back then. And of course the wildest was Harry Terry. And he was a character. Oh, Harry, he shot a bunch of ducks together. And so one day, Harry goes to Arkansas. And
I remember the story.
anyway, Harry goes to Arkansas. And they hunt this place called the Biomeda. It's a public place. I never hunted the Biomeda. I always hunted other places. And my sons hunted places with me too. I mean, some fantastic places. But this particular place, there was no water in the Biomeda. Well, there was another group from Sumter. I won't mention their names. They went out there. Well, Harry goes out there with his crew, and Harry's got on his bib overalls. And the other crew, well, the ducks are in the rice fields. So they called a fellow in Arkansas. So I told him, by no means you stay out of my rice fields. Well, Harry goes to, this is terrible. Harry goes to the old farmer. He's got his son with him, Max, and another boy about Max's age. Well, Harry finds the old farmer and puts his arm around his boy and says, "Sir, I'm from Make-A-Wish Foundation." And this boy got cancer, and his wish is to come to Arkansas and shoot ducks. And the old farmer said, "You go out there and you shoot all the ducks you want." Well, the irony of it is, after one of my books that I wrote, I got a knock on the door. This man comes to the house. We're talking, and I start telling him about Harry, and he said, "Whoa, stop." He said, "I was the boy." He said it happened just like Harry said it did. And but we had fun to Sparkleberry, and a lot of things Harry did that, well, Harry's gone now, so, but they weren't quite illegal. But he was
Old outlaws.
He was, oh, there were a bunch of them around here. My goodness, and but the duck hunting was phenomenal right in Santee and Pocalla, especially Pocalla. It was, I remember, I don't even remember going to high school the last year. I hunted in the mornings and the afternoons. I'd skip school. I can show you a string of ducks I killed one morning in 1961 by myself. And it was just, we would go down there, and after the season, you go down to what they call 12 bridges, and there would just be a mat of green heads as far as you could see. And I also, I have trouble with this. I was the founder of the South Carolina Duck Calling Championship. I have every scrap of paper. I have a notebook from the brochures that I designed, and I have all of the clippings from newspapers in this album. And I cannot get anyone to come and talk to me about it. Now, there's a lot of them. I always said, I don't have it, but I'd put $1,000 on the table if somebody could come up with something before 1968. I'm talking about something that's organized. And the whole thing started at the Santee National Wildlife Refuge. I had just been elected to the old Sumter County Board of Game and Fish Association. That was right below in the paper. We were talking about what can we do. And I came up with the idea. I said, well, let's have a duck calling championship. And they said, well, you do it. Well, I did it. I had a fellow by the name of Harry Babcock, who was one of the first judges. And,
Now he is related to
Havilah
Babcock, the old writer.
The famous writer. Well, he came as one of the judges. Well, I had two other people who helped me. He sent us plane tickets to his private club in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Well, about 3 months before we were to go, I got a letter from them saying this is Arkansas, they cut the limit to 1 mallard. And they were thinking about closing the Mississippi Flyway. I said, I don't care if they cut it to a half a mallard, I'm coming to Arkansas. That's been my dream since I was a kid. So we went out there, we shot, of course, lemon mallards, we shot other things. But there was a baseball player there by the name of Carl Yastrzemski. I never heard of Carl Yastrzemski. And I just gone to work at the state newspaper. So I go back and I tell the boys at the sports department, I said, well, I just hunted with some fellow by the name of Carl Yastrzemski. Well, they went crazy. You hunted with Carl Yastrzemski, this famous baseball player. And so it was a treat. But I've been to Arkansas many times since then. We hunted with a fellow one time. Well, I'll tell you a funny story too. We went to a place called Mallard Magic. Well, we hunted there. And
Off the Lingill River.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, the next day, they come and they tell us that we had to leave. They kicked us out. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, I wrote this story, and it was a good story. And the next year, I went back. I cannot remember his name. He was on a tractor. And he jumped off the tractor and he dropped down and started calling me El Presidente. El Presidente. Said he had more business than you knew what to do with after I wrote that story. He was so apologetic for it. Well, he ran me off. Just ran me out of off the property. We were hunting with a fellow by the name of Clay Hubbard. I think Clay is dead by now. Man, goodness gracious, the ducks that came into that blind that morning. I was shooting, these pintails came in, and I saw the band, and I shot. And I didn't say anything to Clay. And the duck, when we got the ducks, I said, Clay, you shoot this duck? And I had my hand over the band. He said, no. I said, well, I did, Clay, and I showed him the band. So I had it mounted. And, I've hunted so many places and had so much fun in my life, duck hunting. Went out to shoot Clay birds my son just a couple of days ago. And I hadn't shot.
That was yesterday.
Yes, okay, yesterday. I'm old. I told him the other day I was 19 and a half years away from being 100. And but anyway, I did pretty good. I just do 20 gauges, do 410 now. Sight's getting off, and I couldn't see them going across. But the high birds that would go up and arc and come back, I got 3 triples with the 20 gauge and 3 doubles with the 410.
Yep.
Now, my son...
That he did. I ended up having to clean his guns for him last night.
And my son gets a triple, and he smiles, well, I got a triple. And I said, well, you should have. You're still a kid. You're 59 years old. I'm almost 100. And, but it felt so great because I hadn't shot in a long time. And the last time I hunted ducks was down in the Yucatan, New Mexico.
What year was that?
Oh, that must have been 12 years ago. But oh my goodness, you talking about teal? It was the first time I hunted there. It was there's a thing down there. The limit's 15, but if you shoot 15 birds, they'll give you another license. Well, I was just fellow by the name of Gallo Menez. I probably mispronounced his name. We became great friends, and I hunted with him many times. And I hunted the black-throated bob whites with him too. But we were shooting in the mangrove swamps. And I was shooting a little 20 gauge that morning. And I had 45 birds on the water. I got scared. I got back to this little boat landed out of nowhere, and goodness gracious, there was a brand new white Ford pickup truck. I knew nobody in that village had a brand new white Ford pickup truck. I knew it was a game board. Well, it was a Federale. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and I just kind of put my hands up like I surrendered. And he just said, don't worry, in English. But I had...
Okay, so I want to ask you a couple other questions. you've been writing for as long as I can remember. I mean, writing before I was born. I'll be 59 in a couple of days. But you've written some books, and you've had a book signing here recently, here in Sumter. Can you tell us some of your books, and also how can people, if they want to purchase one of your books or purchase multiple books, how they can get in touch with you?
Well, this way I do with my email, which is Jon Wongrey at yahoo.com. Now John is Jon, and I've written. Let's see, there's Moments of Glory, which is a book of waterfowl poetry. A Waterfowler's Trek, which is a book of short stories. Waterfowl hunting, Lord, Just One More Time. Another book on waterfowl hunting, Places I've Been. A covey of tales about quail hunting, bird hunting growing up. And it has sold a lot of books, but there are other books I've written, but there's one that I really enjoyed writing. It was a long time ago, called The Last Rice Planter. And
that's one of my favorites.
It is not an easy book. It's about the war with the North and the Southern are coming home. His name is Jasper Webb. It's based on the Nathaniel, what were their names? The family, the Southern family, Hayward, who were at one time the richest. He was the richest man in the colony with holdings of over $2 million. One of the Sandstein's Declaration of Independence. But anyway, it was based on his plantation. The war comes and this Jasper Webb goes off to war. Well, he could have become an officer, but he decided to become a sergeant major. And it's about him coming back home and everything he has to go through.
Well, don't give them too much because they want to get the book now. They want to read it. So
I won't give them the ending because it's the ending like
you've never seen before.
Then there's one that I really like called The Guest. It's actually a love story. It takes place in the South Carolina Low Country. It's based on a story that my mama told me when I was a boy. And it too has an ending, a very surprise ending to it that you won't see coming. But it's very easy to read, and it's a clean book too. All my books are clean, even The Last Rice Planter. I won't allow any profanity whatsoever in my books, because there's no need to. And but you don't need profanity in The Last Rice Planter because there's enough going on to take care of the hard stuff. So
when we're getting ready to finish up this interview here on this, but I know we're planning, you're planning a trip to Louisiana coming September. I may or may not be able to go because of some prior engagements. But anything else? You have any other plans for the year? Are you going to try to go somewhere else or do anything else?
No, Louisiana, I've got arthritis now, and it's really giving me a fit. And it's going to be kind of hard to travel. Louisiana will probably be about it, but I want to shoot teal, and I want to shoot on this 410. I got this new shot, well they say it's new, this tungsten stuff. You're supposed to be able to kill a duck a zillion miles away with the stuff. And I just want to see if I can do it with a 410. I watch these videos, these boys up in Canada shooting these Canada geese with a 410 and these mallard ducks. And but I will say one story real quick is I do have another book of poems coming out called Moments of Glory, Volume 2. I'm doing a book on this pond that I fished for a number of years the pond where my son caught a bass that weighed 15
It
pounds.
was 14 pounds, 13 ounces.
Well, he lost an ounce.
He lost weight.
He lost weight because he got out of the water. And they lose weight. They lose ounces time they get out of the water. But anyway, I've been trying to catch one bigger than that since then. And I'm going to catch it this year. I've called it Mama Big Mouth. Because I done hung bomb on Big Mouth 2 or 3 times. If I have to use dynamite this time. But it was in Canada, in Saskatchewan. A fellow by the name of Red Glennie. I heard from Red the other day. I just got my books. And one morning we were shooting Canada geese. There were 4 of us. My wife Renette was with us. We were in these, they weren't layout blinds, they were like cockpits. And you sit in and you slats and you could see it through them. And the geese would come in, you'd pop a button, things would come up and you'd shoot. Well, the 4 of us, the limit was 8 apiece. We killed 32 Canada geese that morning. But the funny thing is, one of the boys, I was remarking, I said, well, you know, I want to shoot some ducks. And the fellow said, these Americans, they're so silly. We've got all these beautiful Canada geese, and all they want to do is shoot mallard ducks. And I said, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
I want to shoot mallard ducks. And, but that's
Okay.
That's it. But I'm looking forward to Louisiana, and
Well, I'm gonna do everything I can to get there with you, but we'll see what happens.
I'm gonna find out today before you leave. We're gonna text. I'm gonna send an email, and I'm gonna make a phone call. And
All right.
see what happens.
All right, guys. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this little interview with my dad, AKA Pappa Duck, is what all the grandchildren, even I do call him that sometimes. But if you want to get one of his books, in the description of this video, I'm going to leave his email address so you can contact him directly. That way you can, and I'll leave a list of the names of the books as well in the description. But if you want one of his books, do us a favor and give him a call, shoot him an email, he'll get them sent out to you. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see y'all next time on Daddy Duck 365.